Canon just dropped firmware 1.1, but they've already released plans for their next version. And how well has the cooldown times improved? Is a new M camera about to drop? And what camera gear did I buy today? And what real-time improvements am I noticing from the R5 firmware update and the update to Final Cut Pro? Let's get into it. Hi, I'm Simon. Thanks for tuning into The Ordinary Filmmaker. If you're new here, subscribe to get notification of new videos like this one, so you don't miss any news, tutorials, or rumors. And all the links to everything I talk about in this video, including gear discussed, are placed in the description down below, along with my affiliate links. So if you're looking for new gear and you want to support this channel, consider using my affiliate links down below for Downtown Camera, B&H, and Amazon. Canon released firmware 1.1.0 for the EOS R5. It addresses thermal concerns, but not as aggressively as some had hoped. But cooldown times are considerably better, especially when the ambient temperature is considerably colder, unlike today. Now yesterday I did record 23 minutes in 4K HQ, and after about, I'd say 30 minutes or less, I had another 25 minutes to record. So for me, shooting in the studio basement, I actually basically was able to go right back to normal full cooldown within about 30 minutes. And this is much quicker than before. If you're worried about overheating, you need to ask yourself this question. Are you shooting mostly small clips or long events? If you're shooting mostly small clips, or you're not using the overheat modes, then the R5 will be fine for you. But if you're shooting longer events, longer than 30 minutes, or you're shooting with those modes like 4K 60, then I'd either recommend considering an external recorder to avoid those record limits and those overheat limits, or even considering a camera like the A7S III. Most of my videos are less than 15 minutes long and shot in a studio, so I don't really have any issues. But your scenarios might be different. And speaking of different, I was in the city for much of the day to pick up some gear. It was hot, humid, overcast at times, and sunny, and I was dragging along a 6-year-old boy with the attention span of a nearsighted squirrel. It made me feel cranky and eager to get back home. I first tried some vlogging. Then I did some run and gun work before shooting some wildlife. I spent about 2 hours on and off, but not filming the entire time. I probably spent half of that time trying to set up the shot, and about another third of that time trying to swat black flies, which were biting my ankles for some reason. When I started recording, the R5 said I had 25 minutes, which is what I normally see when the camera's fully cooled down. After shooting a combination of photos and videos, I usually have 10 minutes of record time before I move on to the next scene. By the time I set up the next shot, I get myself back up to about 15 or 20 minutes before shooting again. The R5 definitely seems to cool down quicker than before, and the temperatures today were in the mid to lower 80s, which is about the high 20s in Celsius. Now, as temperatures take a dive in September, I'm curious to see how well the R5 performs. So real-life usage is showing an improvement with regard to cooldown times. But let's get back to the firmware update. No sooner had I applied firmware 1.1.0 from Canon USA, they made some noise. They made some noise about the next R5 firmware update, which validated pretty much what Canon Rumors has been saying for the last couple of months. In addition to the EOS R5 firmware version 1.1.0, Canon is already working on a further future updates in response to feedback on the EOS 1DX Mark III and EOS R5. Canon plans to introduce the following video recording features through a series of future firmware updates. Now that was key, a series of future firmware updates, not going to all come at once. Now the R5 will get Canon Log 3, a lower bitrate option for 8K RAW video recording, a lower bitrate option for all IPB video recording modes, and the addition of a 120 frames per second option in full HD recording. It's great to see 120 frames per second is coming to the R5 in 1080. And that we're getting Canon Log 3. And lower bit rates are nice too. But the real important message here is that they're listening to our feedback. Still not happy with a cripple hammer? Want to see record limits gone? Or an improvement in cooldown times? Well, reach out to them. They're listening. Call them. Fill out their feedback form. If they're listening, we need to speak up. I'm glad to see that they're continuing to improve on the R5. So this looks like it's only going to get better from here on out. But now, on to the 1DX Mark III. It's strange in a world where the 1DX Mark III is an afterthought, but everything is about the R5 these days. I'd also like to have more R6 coverage as well, but there just aren't even any whispers going on right now. No mention of a firmware update or how they're approaching the cool-down video modes. But the 1DX Mark III is getting an update, so let's take a look at it. The 1DX Mark III will get Canon Log as an option, a lower bitrate for 5.5K RAW recording, and a lower bitrate option for all IPB video recording modes. But that's not all. There's more Canon news for those looking for an update on the EF-M mount. Nakashita reports that a Canon camera designated as DS126843 was registered in Taiwan. It's got a nice ring to it, that name. Probably should name my second child 4368DS. What do you guys think? Anyhow, be serious for a moment here. This camera has 802.11 BGN, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth 4.2. And it's an EF-M mount camera. Could this be the M50 or the M5 Mark II? Well, I doubt it's a high-end M-mount camera because it only has Bluetooth 4.2. I'd expect the high-end model to have Bluetooth 5, but guessing how Canon will cripple features is tough to guess. Would they only grant Bluetooth 5.0 to full-frame cameras? That would be silly, right? Just like keeping record limits of 30 minutes when everybody else is getting rid of them. Once I know more, I'll let you know more, but for now, let me show you some gear that I got today. When I woke up this morning, I checked the train times. My first visit was to Patrick at Downtown Camera. Sadly, not all went to plan. While I got the times right, I didn't know that they'd replaced the trains with coach buses since COVID. And this is for all non-rush hour, or for all non-rush hour times. The train normally takes 52 minutes, and with the traffic on the roads, it's usually quite a bit faster than driving downtown. But the bus is another story. I knew we were in trouble when the bus made a left turn instead of a right. You see, left takes us through town and the congested roads. While the train is a straight line downtown, the bus meanders from town to town, and I feared it was going to take me 3 hours to get down there. And worse, I'm traveling with a 6-year-old with an active bladder. You see, the trains have washrooms, so if it gets stuck on the tracks or anything, no problem. Needless to say, instead of a 4-hour road trip, the day lasted 8 hours. But I have to say, the trip was worth it. After we got off the bus, we had a short walk to Downtown Camera, where Patrick had some new gear for me. Would you like to see what Patrick loaned the ordinary filmmaker for the next week? Let's go ahead and take a look. What's this here? XLR extension cable. Not exciting, I know, but I am getting a new shotgun mic. And so to go with that, I also got this new rig here, so that's going to be helpful. So in an upcoming review, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about shotgun mics. But I know what you're looking for. You're looking for something a little bit more exciting. All right. This is the Canon RF 800mm, and a big thanks to Patrick for making this happen. So a quick shout out to Patrick. If you're in Canada and you need gear and you really are looking for a positive customer experience, give Patrick a ring. But before I go any further, I want to show you something about this lens, because if you buy it, and if you're like me, you don't always read the manual, if you just go ahead and put this onto your camera, it's not going to work. What you have to do is you have to make sure it's fully extended. So right here, you probably can't see that from there, it has unlock and lock. So what you have to do is you have to unlock it, extend it, and then lock it. And then when you turn your camera on, it's going to work, no problem, and you're not going to have any issues with it. But this is the 800mm, not the 600mm. And this is not a full review, but I'm going to give you a good lot to chew on here. I spent a good 2 hours with this lens down by Harbourfront this afternoon, and I'd like to show you some videos and photos I put together. This first clip is handheld, but I managed to stabilize myself against a park bench here. Digital stabilization is off, lens and IBIS are on. Are you stunned by how well this turned out? I get that this is a seagull and not a rare bird from the Amazon, but I'm beginning to feel a little bit like David Attenborough, though the narration's a bit rubbish. I'm about 25 feet away here, and here. This is completely handheld. Looks like the F11 800mm isn't so garbage after all, is it? While this is the ordinary filmmaker, I also managed to get off a few photos. But these photos here, well, these are actually screen grabs that I took from my video. How's the detail? Now some of these have been cropped a little from the 4K that I shot, but they've all been taken from 4K HQ. Good enough for a wedding? Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. I wouldn't want to be betting my reputation on that yet, but for social media, friends and family, 4x6 prints, I think the detail's more than enough. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments section down below. This isn't meant to be a full in-depth review of the Canon RF 800mm. I just wanted to give you a bit of a sneak peek of what I'm going to go into over the next week, give you a taste for this lens, something to sink your teeth into. We're supposed to be getting some clear skies this weekend, giving me the opportunity to capture more wildlife shots and do some late night moon shots, where I'll go into a lot more detail. But wait, there's more. Patrick also loaned me this lens here, and this is the 15 to 35mm. This lens is very much on my roadmap, but it doesn't come cheap, so if you need any camera gear, please use my affiliate links to help make this a reality. Now with this lens, I did try some vlogging this afternoon, but, well, to say it was windy was an understatement. I wasn't expecting strong winds, so I didn't bring any of my dead cats. I had a shotgun mic and I had my Tascam, but without a dead cat, yeah, the audio would have been terrible. And while IBIS worked well, I found it a little bit awkward holding the camera, because I was holding the camera out like this, with this lens on it, and I was trying to keep myself framed right while walking so I don't fall into Lake Ontario. Yeah, that would have been embarrassing, and I would have bought this lens because it's on loan, but if I break it, well, you know what they say, break it, you buy it, right? Plus, I was also a little bit cranky because it was hot and humid, and I had a long bus ride, my son was acting up, but I will do much better reviews of this lens later. I don't have any video to really show you of it now. I'm going to shoot my weekly Q&A video using this 15 to 35, and I'm going to try shooting it in 4K HQ to see how much recording time I actually get. Oh, and one more thing. After updating Final Cut Pro to 10.4.9, I think this was just a couple of days ago, the day before the firmware update, Final Cut Pro can now tear through the R5's 4K video without dropping a frame at all. Now, prior to this update, editing 4K was sluggish and annoying. Now I can edit 4K regardless of how many effects have been added from the camera without being rendered to rendered to ProRes 422. I know what you're thinking. I do. What about 8K? Well, I tried 8K recording just a little while ago, all I at 29.97 frames per second, and it was skipping faster than a 6-year-old with a brand new skipping rope. And this is where I have a little bit of a lesson learned. So I'd shot that probably about 10-15 minutes before I went to shoot this video. And when I went to shoot this video, it showed me 15 minutes of recording in 4K HQ. 15 minutes. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do a run through. I'm going to do one practice session, and I'm going to go to record again. And guess what? It said 15 minutes again. I'm like, oh, this is not good. This changes everything. I can't. Okay, so the cool down times are terrible, blah, 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 right? No, guess what this guy did? He forgot he put it on 8K. Yep. So I wasted some time. I went to the menus, I set it back to 4K fine, and lo and behold, there I had 25 minutes. And prior to setting up for this video, not only did I shoot a little bit of 8K, and it was only 10 seconds, but prior to that, I put this lens back on, the 800mm, and I went outside hoping to find some birds to shoot. With the lens, of course, right? Nothing. I think we're still going to get some bad weather here, and there was nothing. No sounds, no insects, no birds. They sense something's coming, so I'm going to hopefully get some more tomorrow, because we have blue jays, we have cardinals, we have all sorts of birds around here, and I'm just afraid now that I've got this wonderful lens, nothing's going to show up. They've decided, well, we're going to go away now. You're watching us. That's it. Bye-bye. We're gone, right? Once you got the camera lined up, things disappear. But that's it for now, guys. Don't forget to subscribe for your chance to win a brand new Canon EOS R5. Thanks for watching The Ordinary Filmmaker. We'll see you again soon.